Hey, good morning, team. Welcome to Executive Espresso Caffeinated Conversation with Doc Heath. That's me. And we are waiting on our guest. I think he may be having some technical difficulties with the link because I think he is a few time zones away. But thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate you showing up this morning. For those of you watching the replays, thank you for that. Share this out with some folks that might need some high octane success tips in their life. And our guest today, I'll just tell you a little bit about him while we're waiting. And this is in the show notes or the YouTube description. You can go on YouTube and find those. Byron Athene is hopefully going to be here. If he's not, we're going to just grab our coffee, have a conversation. How about that? Just you and I, just us two, and or however many is watching this. You can have your coffee in the future. But Byron is a philosopher, a qualified counseling psychotherapist. He's a certified mindset coach, a certified NLP coach. Now, for those of you that don't know much about NLP, that is neuro-linguistic programming, and that came out of the work of Milton Erickson. I've got some of his books on the shelf back there beside the on-air sign. And it's about how we can use the way that the brain works normally and capitalize on that in order to really program our brains for success, because what you think today, you're going to think more of tomorrow, and more over the next day, and more of the day after that. And Byron's expertise is in that. He's also a clinical supervisor, a trainer, of course, a hypnotherapist. There's where the NLP comes in. And if you'll stick around to the end, we're going to have a triple shot of things that you can do to biggie size your life. Gosh, who does biggie sizing? Is that McDonald's or Burger King? But Byron hopefully will be here, but we will move right along. In the meantime, the topics for today is, why is it so easy to get in your own way? Yeah, is it true for you that, like me, sometimes your biggest enemy is yourself? Your biggest obstacle are your own sabotaging thoughts? Why is it that we do that to ourselves? And we'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments. Number two, why is it that we tend to focus on the negative even amidst a whole ocean of positive things? Now, I stole that from Byron. That's his talking topic, and I'll give you my spin on it. But if he's not able to make it today, that's okay. We'll move and reset and carry on as normal. And number three, how can we think more rationally? And I'm really looking forward to hearing Byron's tips on that. And at the end, we'll talk about his own mental struggle, his best mindset hack. If not his, we'll talk about mine. And then how do you deal with moments of negativity when those come up? But let's get, and if you have a question, a comment, just drop it in the chat. I've got it open right here. I've already welcomed you to Executive Espresso, Caffeinated Conversation with Dr. Heath. But let's talk about, why is it so easy to get in our own way? My brother and I have done some building, and it's out back through that window right there. And he doesn't really notice some things that we didn't do perfectly. And why is that? Well, because he doesn't live here. I live here. And when you're so close to the issue, you're just going to notice it more. I can walk out and ignore everything we did properly and hone in on the one thing that we didn't do well, and I get on my own way with that, because the more you look for the negative in your life, the more negative you're going to find. And why is it that we do that? And I don't know if Byron's going to be able to make it. I'll have to reach out to him after we get done here, but it's already about 5 after, and this is only an 18-minute show. It'll be shorter today since we don't have a guest. We just have me. But why is it that we focus on the one negative thing? For instance, I could sit here and talk all the time about how my guest wasn't able to make it for some reason, and waste my time doing that, or I could just carry on. And what we're going to do is we're just going to carry on. But why is it that we focus on that one negative thing? I think the reason we do that is a very good reason. It's for safety. Imagine that you walk through your yard and you were unable to see the potholes. Imagine that you didn't see the red lights on your roadway to work. Imagine if you didn't see the viper, the snake, the water moccasin in these parts, or the copperhead. We also have rattlesnakes. You know, I shot, some of you snake lovers won't like me for this, but I actually shot 6 water moccasins out of my pool the year before last. We had kind of let it get nasty and grody through the winter, and water moccasins just love that. But those are the most poisonous snakes we have around here. My physician colleagues tell me if you have a choice to get bitten by a snake, choose the copperhead. Next would be the rattlesnake. The worst would be the water moccasin. But so we had that full. But imagine that you didn't notice that. Well, that would be dangerous to you. So our brain is really leveraged, our brain is really engineered or designed to pick out things that may be a danger to ourselves. And one of the things that may be a danger to ourselves is what? Well, us. You might look up the Darwin Awards. The Darwin Awards are given out to people that do the stupidest things and get themselves killed. And it's a benefit to be able to pick out things which may be a danger to you. But there's another phenomenon in the brain that humans are very susceptible to, and that is over-assimilation. And that is when we focus too much on one thing, or we think that a thing that has happened, more is going to happen. I just talked earlier this morning on a Twitter conversation about how the future really may not be predicted by the past. Your past may very well not be a great predictor of the future, because that's called over-assimilation. Just because something's not going right now doesn't mean that it will always not go right. And as Byron would have talked today, why do we focus on that one negative thing amidst the ocean of positive things? Well, number one, our brains are kind of built that way for safety, and we have to master that and not let it control us. But the other thing is really, we call it in the art lab, underthinking. Underthinking. Underthinking is ignoring all the other important aspects of the situation. So when you find yourself focused on a negative, maybe take a pen and a piece of paper and write down that negative thing, but then write down, well, for instance, it's kind of warm in here. Believe it or not, my wife is really temperature sensitive and cold natured. I am so hot natured, and she comes in the office first thing in the morning and has her coffee and her morning paper, and then she cranks up the heat. There's a heater, I kid you not, it is 100 degrees outside, and my wife has a heater, I kid you not, below the desk. And she's had it cranked up. I think it was about 76 degrees in here earlier, and I turned the air up, and I turned the ceiling fan on. But I could focus in on the temperature, or I could focus in on the opportunity of the moment. I can focus in on what my body can do with temperature, such as regulate itself. In other words, I'm leaning into my own self-efficacy to be safe in the situation and effective in the situation. Now, thirdly, how can we think more rationally? Well, there is a quick little algorithm that I would recommend, and that is to identify the situation. Okay, look around. What is the event, situation, circumstance? Secondly, ask, what are you choosing to think about it? What are you choosing to think about it? And next is how you're choosing to think about it really accurate and realistic. In other words, is how you're choosing to think of it being of service to you, or is it sabotaging you? How can we think more rationally? Is to think more slowly, think more intentionally, and then you can speed that up. It'll become old hat. Now for a quick little triple shot for the day before I leave you guys, since Byron wasn't able to make it, and we'll reach out to him. We hope that he's okay. My own top mental struggle of the day, I think my own top mental struggle is, do I have what it takes, or do I measure up in some way? And I think that is a very quintessential struggle for most men. Do you have what it takes? And by the way, guys, the answer is yes. And I'm not saying that women don't struggle with it, but the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I'm watching through the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary this morning as I drink my coffee. Right after this, I'll finish drinking my coffee. It's hard to drink and talk at the same time. But some of you know that watch me. This is my turmeric-infused black maca, black pepper extract, 7 sacred mushrooms latte that I have every day. If you want the recipe, just put it in the chat. I'll be glad to share that. But I'm watching this documentary, and the narrator asked Arnold Schwarzenegger, why didn't you give up? Arnold talks about for 5 years after the not smash hit, Hercules in New York, he got no offers, none. I mean, can you imagine being in business and you get no leads for 5 years? Would you stick with it? Most people, I would say 99.9% of people would not stick with it. Arnold stuck with it, and he said, when the narrator said, why didn't you give up? He said, because that was not part of the plan. How about that? Make sure that giving up is simply not part of the plan. When I've done some business ventures and they haven't worked out well, or they weren't going in the direction that I preferred, my wife would ask me, when is enough enough? When are you going to quit? And I will say, since I love playing chess, when there's literally no more moves on the board, that's when I'll give up. When there's no more moves to make, that's when I'll give up. And that's triple shot number 2, or 2 of my triple shot, is my best mindset hack for the day is take giving up off the board. And how do you deal with moments of negativity? I would say identify them, embrace them, and then look around at all the other positive things. Even if you're sitting outside in nature and you see a flower. Or my favorites are butterflies. I was with a client the other day. We were sitting there, and I just pointed out to him, gosh, look at that butterfly. I mean, that butterfly just sitting there doing its own thing. Isn't that magnificent? Guys, take time this week. Over the 4th of July in the States, we celebrate independence, and celebrate some independence of thinking, and pay attention to the world doing its own thing. And if you see a butterfly, observe the butterfly doing its own thing. It's not sitting there focused on the heat of the sun. It's not focused on how short its lifespan is. It's focused on being a butterfly in the moment, and that's what you guys can do. Hey, I'm going to turn the air up because it is still really hot in here. I'm going to finish my coffee. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll catch you next Saturday on Executive Espresso, and maybe we'll have a guest that shows up then, and thank you so much for joining.